Welcome, everybody. I'm Chris Metzler, one of the programmers here with the Green Film Festival of San Francisco. As you know, we like to kind of program some of the most interesting, cool, eclectic, kind of environmental and adventure films from around the world. You're lucky enough to just have seen Ride, a brutal fairy tale, and we're lucky enough to have the director, Serge Yu, here. Welcome, Serge.
Well, thanks for having me, Chris, and hello, everyone.
Hey there. Well, maybe a good place to start is you know, what was the kind of genesis of the idea for the film, and that you knew that this was just kind of the story that you wanted to kind of dig deep and share?
Sure. Okay. Well, I think you're always looking for stories that are inspiring or interesting, or will challenge you or challenge an audience. And my producer William Ward, his brother had worked at a sports management company, and he had managed Sam Willoughby, who's obviously the protagonist in the film, in his early career. Then Sam had had his accident, and James had helped do some fundraising initially for some of the medical expenses. And anyway, they'd gone off on their journey, and we were talking about it, and James was telling us about the story, and we thought this is just a magic story. This is something that we need to tell. It's something that had all the elements, I think. And once we dug deep and we could see what the film was about, it's an inspiring story, it's a love story, it's many different things, and it works on many different levels. And so we're very excited, and I think without having anyone attached in terms of financing, we just sort of went for it, really. And that's what we did.
And what do you think, in that kind of, like truly indie approach to making it at first,
Yes.
um, what were kind of some of the challenges that you expected, and what were some of the challenges that surprised you, I guess, as you think
Okay.
about making it?
Very good question. Very good question. I think the first one was obviously COVID. I think that was a big problem. So we had to. I never actually got to physically meet Sam and Elise till we did the interviews. So that was so we corresponded in this capacity for a very long time and got to know each other. And so the challenges, I think, were obviously distance. The tyranny of distance, because we couldn't actually meet up. So that was interesting, and that was sort of a different way to develop a relationship with a subject.
Mm.
And then, as we could then physically meet, we could actually sort of then evolve that relationship, which was great. But it took a while. The obvious challenge to me, and having made many films and TV series, was the Olympics. That was the biggest challenge, because both Olympic champions, and that needed to be in the story, and so that was the biggest hurdle. And we managed to get a private sponsor who came in and helped with the film, and that basically got us over the line for the payment, basically, of the Olympic footage. So that was just this sort of last minute kind of. That was probably the biggest challenge in terms of telling the story. I mean, these are incredibly genuine, authentic people who have lived this extraordinary journey. And that was easy. That was the easy part, really. Yeah, to be honest. I think it was really about distance, and it was really about things like, licensing footage from the Olympics and things like that. But everything else was just the joy to be part of, really.
And was there any, it's one thing to be out there and being filmed, but in kind of opening yourself up on camera, were they, comfortable with doing it? Was there any kind of trepidation about being in a documentary, or is
Look,
it
it's a good.
just an opportunity to be able to kind of, was it cathartic for them, I guess, in some way to?
Look, I think in some way, I think Sam has told his story, in different capacities over the last few years, but nothing like this. And so, I think he definitely felt that this was an opportunity. I think what he wants to do is have this legacy of actually helping people through hardship and struggle. I mean, this is what he wants to do now. This is his
Oh, wow.
mission in life. Yeah. So he felt that this was, really important opportunity to talk to a wider audience. He's spoken to groups, he's spoken individually to people, but he wanted to speak to a wider audience, and that this was an opportunity to do that. And look, we went to some pretty dark places, as you know. but he was really willing to do that. Elise was incredibly willing to do that, which is pretty remarkable, that she's sort of been on this journey with him. And his family are just extraordinary. And I think it comes back to this fact that I really want to stress it is that they're just incredibly authentic people.
Hmm.
What you see is what you get. Um, there's no artifice. There's no kind of image to portray. It's not a performance. These people are who they are, and I think building some trust and building a safe harbor for them to actually sort of explore this within the production, gave them the opportunity to go to
Yeah.
that place. So I think was, and again, it was a real privilege from my point of view to be able to be part of that, and to be party to that, which was great.
And what was it? What's their reaction been to the film? And how does that kind of sync up with what some of his future endeavors are?
Okay, well, I think the reaction everywhere we've played it, we've in festivals, we've had a national broadcaster here in Australia take on the film, and the response. I've been in theaters with 500 people, and with Sam and Elise, and experiencing the film with their family, and the reaction has been really beautiful, really beautiful. Again, I've done films. I've been in these situations, but this is just very different. This is very different because it's raw, it's real. It does have a connection with audiences that I feel is special, and I think for Sam and Elise, this is so much a part of their next chapter. Do you know what I mean? And this is what they're trying to do, is trying to connect with the audience, trying to tell people that actually, in the face of we live. I know it sounds goofy, Chris, but we live in anxious, stressed out, uncertain times, and stories like this help anybody, with any kind of problem, and any kind of confronting any kind of challenge. And I think that's what they're talking about. They're not just talking about spinal injury, or they're talking about they speak to kids about depression, about it's I think it sort of hopefully talks in a more universal sense about struggle, and if there's love, and if there's support, and if there's an opportunity to sort of help navigate yourself through tough times, maybe things can be sort of okay, if you get what
Yeah,
I mean.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, that I guess as we wrap things up, I mean, this is one of the things I always kind of try to remember our audience is that we're lucky enough that filmmakers like you share these films with us early on in the film's career, and then our role as an audience to go out there and help spread the word where you're kind
Yes, totally.
of.
Yes.
So, what are some ways that we can kind of help share, but then also for those that want to kind of continue to follow the story,
Yep.
is there a way to kind of like follow Sam and Elise or elsewhere? So,
Well, there's all the social network stuff that's going on. We still have an active. We sort of try and keep everyone up to date with on our socials in regards to where the film's at and what's going on. We're talking to a couple of US broadcasters at the moment, so I'm hoping that something comes through with that we can talk to really quite a bigger audience. But the festival support has been incredible for us, and it's people like yourselves who help engage an audience with what we're trying to do, and help us to sort of lift us to the next level. Sam and Elise are very active on socials, and what's interesting is that Elise, I think, is she's in her 30s now, which is quite remarkable for someone at that sport. And I think her eyes are on Paris next year. So Paris. So you can follow her journey as she takes podium after podium every weekend in her so there's those sorts of elements. It's interesting as well, because I think that if I come back to the fact that the subject matter, them as authentic people, what's interesting about them, Chris, is they don't sort of broadcast a lot of what they do. They do a lot of work for a lot of people. And Sam behind the scenes is constantly talking to families or individuals that have gone through perhaps spinal injury or catastrophic injuries. And nobody knows about that stuff. And I don't want to spruik it too much, because well, he doesn't need the advertisement, but it's just yeah. How do I put it? It's they're doing a lot of good work that you're not hearing about, which I think is noble and great. And look, I think if people can look after each other, actually, if I want to say something about what we can do,
Yeah.
um, if someone is in trouble or someone does have some issues with their life, look after them and be there for them and support them. And I think that's hopefully the message of what we're trying to say with the film.
Well, it's very beautiful, Serge. Thank you again for capturing the story, and all the best with everything.
Thank you so much, Chris, and thanks so much for letting us be a part of what you're doing, and keep up the phenomenal work. It's great.
Cool. We'll give it a shot.
Okay.